Cosa favorite?
Check one, check two. Check one.
Konuş Alp, konuş.
Check one, check two.
Bizimki nasıl geliyor?
Yeah, it's okay,
Check
no
one,
problem with the
check two.
sound. Okay.
Check one. Check one.
Hello, everyone. We are ready to start our today's conference. You can turn on your cameras. Good afternoon, dear teachers, students. Good afternoon, dear teachers, students, and friends. My name is Masha.
And my name is Emma.
And we will be the moderators of today's conference. We would like to welcome all who have joined us today. We are glad to see that we are accompanied by representatives of 4 different countries. Ukraine, from Ukraine, we have 2 schools today, Meridian from Kiev and Chernomorsky Lycey from Odessa. Moldova with the school Horizont, Bulgaria with the school Druzhba, and Romania, which is presented by 2 schools, International School of Bucharest and Lycée International. We are all united today by the special occasion, World Human Rights Day.
Human rights are the basic rights and freedoms that belong to every person in the world, from birth until death. They apply regardless of where you're from, what you believe in, or how you choose to live your life. They can never be taken away. However, they can sometimes be restricted. For example, if a person breaks the law, or in the interests of national security. These rights are based on shared values like dignity, fairness, equality, respect, and independence. These values are defined and protected by law. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a milestone document in the history of human rights. Drafted by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world, the declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on 10th of December, 1948, as a common standard of achievements for all peoples and all nations.
It sets out for the first time fundamental human rights to be universally protected, and it has been translated into over 500 languages. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is widely recognized as having inspired and paved the way for the adoption of more than 70 human rights treaties applied today on permanent basis at global and regional levels. Despite the fact that we live in the 21st century, unfortunately, there are still obstacles that humanity faces on its way to acquire equal rights and opportunities. The topic of human rights is very crucial and needs to be discussed. This is why Meridian International School and all of the partner schools have organized today's conference. Before we continue with our discussion, let's watch a small introductory video on the topic of human rights.
The 10th of December is Human Rights Day. Every human is different. We all need different things. And on another level, we are all the same and need exactly the same things.
We want to feel safe and cared for. We want a voice. We want to be seen and heard.
We want to be able to make a difference in our way.
We want to make decisions about our daily lives, what we do, the things we create, the legacy we leave behind.
We want to be respected and loved.
And we all want to be happy.
It shouldn't be hard to create that happiness. Sometimes the obstacles feel insurmountably huge, and sometimes they really are.
If only we could start treating all others the way we wanted to be treated. If only we could reach a place where we really see each other.
That person next to you on the subway, how are they really doing? The guy standing on the street corner with his guitar, the elderly lady listening to him. Each have their own story to tell.
There are children everywhere who are working like adults with no time to play.
Life can be so serious. It is important to handle serious things and make sure that we look after the planet.
But imagine a world where we also have time to play and relax and just be, where everybody feels safe and cared for and heard and seen.
Celebrating all humans everywhere on the planet. And if there are any exploring space right now, you too. Brought to you by the International Festival of Language and Culture.
Now we may start with our discussion. We have prepared 8 questions for you. Once a question is announced, you may raise your hand and share your thoughts. Let's start with the first question. What do you think about the concept of human rights in general? What would you like to say about the source and historicity of the concept of human rights?
You may give your answers.
Yeah, hello. My name is Sehjmeet Singh. This is Haska Said, and this is Samita Salvar. We are from Odessa, Ukraine, licensed in Chernomorski. As we know, today is Human Rights Day, so we and our school want to, we are celebrating and we want to congratulate every person in the world. So I want to start with that human rights are freedom of every person in the world. It goes without saying that we all need to have rights, because no one in the world can live without basic needs like to read or to eat. It's something that is extremely important as well. And the source of historicity, the idea and human being should have to set of basic rights or freedom, has deep roots in Britain, started with the Magna Carta in 1215, as the rule was like king and his government was not above the law and the people. But after the World War II, there was adopted Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It has been catalyst for improving human rights, protection for groups such as disabled people and women. As we all know, we are all born free. We have our own thoughts and ideas, and we should all be treated the same way. Every single person should be treated as other people. Nobody has the right to put us in a prison without a great reason, and to keep us there, to send us away from our own country, like the people are getting deported from without any reason. So we have the full right that we have to stay in this country if we don't have any other something like a problem with it. That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing your opinion. We totally agree with you.
Now Celine may share her answer.
Firstly, I would like to start by explaining how I personally define human rights in general. Human rights are rules that acknowledge and protect the dignity of human beings. They govern how the individual lives in society and with others, as well as their relationship with the government and authority. No government, group, or individual person has the right to do anything that violates another's rights. In my opinion, human rights are necessary standards in our lives that we must always respect, regardless of how we perceive the person in front of us. Our functionality as a society relies on this. We must not let our judgment be clouded and must always stick to this standard. The concept of human rights likely came into existence when people started to realize their own shortcomings as a society and thought about ways to overcome this. In 1948, after World War II and the Holocaust, leaders from nations around the world came together to establish the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document affirms that every person, regardless of religion, race, gender, or nationality, possesses the right to life, liberty, security, equal protection of the law, and freedom of thought, speech, and religion. Though not always honored, the Declaration provides moral norms for how people should be treated in international law and national constitutions.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer with us. We totally agree with you. If no one has anything to add, we may move on to the second question.
So let's move on to the next question. What are the responsibilities of the United Nations Human Rights Associations, non-governmental organizations, activists, etc., in order to prevent wars and human rights violations in the world? Do you think that what is done for the protection of human rights is sufficient?
Видите, никто. Okay, Oana may share her answer.
I feel like their job is to inform people and to do small maybe events or charity work or trainings for people to become more informed and to know what they have to face. I feel like in Moldova there are enough organizations like this. However, they do not have the support of the government. They do not have funding. A lot of the times they are pretty much left alone to fight, and they most of the time have to reach for international funding or grants or stuff like that, which is very we cannot move forward this way.
Thank you so much. We agree with you. We do think that more has to be done. And this is exactly why we organized today's conference to spread awareness. Hafsa, you may share your answer.
I would like to talk about the NGO, which is non-governmental organizations. They are basically people, a group of people. It's an organization which is the voice of the public. So if there's a problem going on in public, then they will just make it clear and they will let the government know about it. And who are the NGO actually? They can be the journalists, they can be normal students, teachers, or whoever that have problems in their daily life. And I believe that every government is trying their best to make human rights be accepted and for it to exist. However, there are always mistakes and it's not like how it should be. And I believe they should work on human rights even more.
Thank you so much, Hafsa. Now, Celine can share her answer.
All right. The responsibilities of the listed groups and organizations are varied and too many to count. But some of the main ones are the passing of laws and bills that reinforce and protect basic human rights worldwide, spread information and awareness about injustice, and help raise money for charities that help individuals who have been negatively impacted by the lack of respect for their human rights. It is a heavy burden to bear for those who work in this field, but it is necessary for our future and the growth of humanity. Unfortunately, I think that what is done for the protection of human rights is insufficient and lacking in a variety of ways. It has been repeatedly shown that the people in power often misuse their authority and instead hurt and negatively impact civilian lives. There are one too many cases of misconduct, such as police brutality, bribed judges, prosecutors, government officials, and more. Those are direct violations of human rights, but there are cases where injustice is simply ignored. For example, in the United States, the state failed to protect Black Americans when lynchings frequently occurred around the country. Since many of those responsible for the lynchings were also state actors, like the police, this is an example of both types of violations occurring at the same time.
Thank you so much, Celine, for sharing your answer. We also think that more can be done.
And now Chernomorski can speak.
I think the main function of the United Nations is to preserve international peace and security. Promoting and protecting human rights is probably one of the fundamental goals of the UN. And also the organization works actively to define, help implement, and monitor international human rights standards. The UN has established a number of human rights mechanisms to monitor the implementation of the human rights standards worldwide.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now, Christina may answer.
Yes, I think that they should protect the human rights too. And I think that human rights makes condition in which people can develop their potential to the fullest.
We totally agree with you.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. If no one has anything to add, we can move on to the third question. Due to the problems arising from the authoritarianism in various countries, people have to migrate to the West and Europe, and thousands of people are suffering. What do you think should be done to prevent these sufferings? Celine, you may share your answer.
All right. The answer is pretty straightforward. The definite solution would be the abolishment of the government. This type of rule has proven to be inhumane and cruel, as it restricts freedom and infringes on basic human rights. Citizens can combat this by protesting, pushing for reform, spreading awareness, and speaking out against this. But they should not be fighting alone. We need to help as much as we can. Even me simply talking about this could be of great help. Our duty as fellow human beings are to help others. We need to recognize their suffering and realize that by actively choosing to ignore their pleas for help, we are writing history. To change history and to prevent generations worth of regret, we can donate to charities, find more information about this, and conduct debates for this specific topic.
Thank you so much, Celine, for being active, sharing your answer. Now, Christina may answer.
I believe many people don't know their human rights, and it's our responsibility to know them and to help others in need. So if people can't find place to live or something, different countries should find place for them, because there are so many abundant buildings in the different countries, and there would be better use of them, like shelters for homeless people or migrations.
Thank you for answering. Now, Chernomorsk may answer.
So right now in our time, we can see that many people are fleeing from their home countries, trying to go to safer countries for their own safety. But like, if we're talking about countries that had to go through war, or countries that, well, they don't really listen to the people, like the nation, and they just set rules that the nation might not like, and they have to leave the country. Like Afghanistan right now, the Taliban occupied the whole country, so the people don't really have anything to say about it. A few ways we could help those refugees would be, first off, like opening up safer ways for them to get to their destined country, like the safer one, because most of the time they die on their way going to the country. And another one, I would like to say that it's better if, like, many people, they might not have certain documents, but the country still doesn't let them get into the country. But it's like, even if they don't have the documents, I think they should still be let in, just because they're in need and they're gonna die if they don't get into the country. Another thing I'd like to say is that, well, many people blame refugees and migrants for like destroying their country. But I don't think that's good, because it's very racially motivated, and yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We also think that migrants and refugees shouldn't be blamed for their choices. Now, Toman may answer.
Yes, hello. So I want to say that here in Bulgaria we have a place that we give homes to migrants. So we have to continue this, as others say they don't have homes, and we have to protect them.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Let's move on to the next question. What is freedom of expression? What is the relationship between human rights and freedom of expression? Besma, you may share your answer.
Thank you. Freedom of speech is a principle that supports the freedom of an individual or a community to articulate their opinion and ideas without fear of censorship or legal sanction. Freedom of expression is an important human right, which is essential for a society to be democratic. It enables the free exchange of ideas, opinions, and information that and thus always members of society to form their own opinions and on issues of public importance. Everyone has the right of freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinion and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers.
Thank you so much, Besma, for sharing your answer. Now, Andrea may share her answer.
Thank you. So, Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion. This means that all of us are entitled to express our views on certain situations. However, I don't think we should forget that this right can be restricted by authorities in specific cases, like if our opinion includes hate speech towards certain religions or nationalities, then it violates other people's rights, and that is why they should be restricted. Thank you.
Yes, we totally agree and think that hate speech is not counted as free speech and it should be restricted.
Yes. Now, Chernomorski may answer.
So first off, I'd like to define what freedom of expression is. So freedom of expression is freedom, it's like freedom that refers to an individual's or a group's ability to freely express their opinion, thoughts, ideas, and emotions regarding a variety of topics without fear of government restriction or what the government would say in general. Now, what would you say the relationship between human rights and freedom of expression is? Once again, I will repeat the article. Article 10 of Human Rights Act, freedom of expression states, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. Despite the fact that practically every country's constitution states free speech, governments around the world every single day they arrest people, or they do even worse just because someone spoke out on a topic that they think was needed. At times though, some people are okay with listening to other people's opinions, but then it comes down to discriminating over minority groups. I'd like to talk about the LGBTQ plus community. They too ask people they too ask people they want to be accepted, and they don't want people making fun of them for anything. They have their own opinions, but many people, they don't really try to listen to their opinions because they think that something's wrong with them. But we've got to accept them as actual people and listen to them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We totally agree with everything that you said. Now Daria may answer.
Yes, hello. I wanted to add that freedom of expression allows pluralist dialogue and creates a secure platform for critical voices. It ensures that people have the right to seek, obtain, receive, and hold information about human rights and human rights violations.
Thank you so much. You have Sami answer now.
The way I see freedom of expression is basically when a human can express their opinions, beliefs, thoughts on the internet or in real life or whenever. If they're, let's say, Christian, and if they're living in a, let's say, a Muslim country, that person should not be, discriminated. Or if same goes for, as Chernomorski explained, if someone is from the LGBTQ community, they should not be discriminated. We should respect their opinions. We should respect what they think. And I also see it as a censorship thing. For example, the government nowadays, they don't censor stuff, which lets humans, us, students and teachers, express our opinion on the internet and lets us just say whatever we believe in and lets us express our thoughts.
We agree with you very much, and also think that no one should be discriminated and that there should be a secure platform for everyone.
Yes, now Christina, may you share her answer?
Yes, I totally agree with others that no one should be discriminated. And I think that the common thing between the freedom of speech and human rights is that freedom of speech is part of the human rights. And my question is, why are thousands imprisoned then for speaking their minds? We're a community and we should stop this. Like, it's our responsibility to know human rights, and we should be able to express ourselves without getting in prison or something like that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Christina, for your answer. And now let's move to the fifth question. Someone from Romania may also answer. What are the responsibilities of individuals for the protection of human rights, since individuals constitute the family, families constitute the society, and societies form the nations of the world? Besma can start.
Thank you. Individual states carry the primary responsibility to protect its population from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity, in accordance with their nationality and international obligations.
Thank you so much, Besma, for your answer. We totally agree with you. Now, Sophia may answer.
Sure. Individual action is something we can speak very broadly about. Individual action makes a difference in small topics and in big ones like human rights. From the study of sociology, the idea that every individual action can lead to a bigger one is pretty obvious. Even sharing an opinion or educating your friends and family about human right problems or educating them on their human rights is a way to get the information out there. And once your family and friends know, they can share it to their family and friends, which creates a community of knowledgeable people, which therefore can create a systemic change towards something way better and way more powerful. So individual actions are definitely the way to go.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We totally agree that every small action leads to a greater one. And now Chernomorski may answer.
As we know, the short answer to who protects our human rights is all of us. We are protecting the human rights. If we'll not protect, no one is going to protect for us because no one is in the world except for. Whether it's our government, public authorities, institutions, businesses, or each of us as individuals, we all have to play in understanding, respecting, and defending human rights. As we know, in India, the farmers, more than 40,000 farmers, were protesting against the law and government in the border of cities because the government passed the bill against them and their lands. So the farmers called their bills black bills, and they were protesting. And in a whole year, the 700 farmers lost their lives. So they were protesting against them the whole year. And finally, the farmers win this game against the law. The Prime Minister of India told them and to the whole country that he is going to repeal these bills. And yesterday, he and his government repealed that bill. And 12 December is the last day of protest, and the farmers are going to their home back after a whole year, after a whole 365 days. This is a big victory, and this is the very big and great example of human rights because all people came together and they did what they want. Even not the government tell them nothing because the right is right. And so basically government must never violate our human rights, but they must also proactively make sure people's rights are upheld and fulfilled. As example, India did it after a year. It's one thing to have the right to an education written in a declaration or charter of rights, but unless our government create the policy setting that ensure schools are functioning and accessible to all children, that right won't be released. That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing this opinion with us. We agree that what you have mentioned is a great example. And we also think that all of us should protect the human rights. Now, Alexandra may answer.
I think that the main responsibility of any individual is respecting everyone around them, given that usually lack of respect is what generally leads to hate crimes against marginalized communities. And the other responsibility would, of course, be not spreading negative or toxic opinions through the prism of news or actual facts, especially to young and impressionable audiences who usually don't do their research and will take the word of anyone older than them, especially if they look up to that person.
We totally agree with you. Now Adelina may share her thoughts.
So up till now, everyone said that we are all worth the same and we have the same human rights as everyone else. So respecting human rights come down to a fundamental thing. Human beings should respect each other, not because they have to, but because they are humans. And this comes from teaching younger younger generations about human rights. This comes from making and bringing awareness to everyone around you. This does not come from knowledge, because knowledge in itself does not mean respecting human rights. A person can be super smart, but they may have no respect for others, and may not know what 2 + 2 is, but treat others around him or her with most respect. Why? Because respecting human rights doesn't come from technology or knowledge itself, but comes from within you, comes from the thing we call humanity. And the interesting thing about humanity is that it comes from you alone. Humanity cannot be imposed. We can only teach others around us by bringing awareness, by trying to educate people about it, by trying to educate people in our family, in our school, in our community. How? By making positive impact, by showing kindness to others, by showing respect and love to our teachers, to our peers, and everyone else. Maybe someone will see and will follow our example. And through this way, we can share human rights. We can share that we can treat each other as humans. Because human rights are given for free. You just have to be human and you have them. But unfortunately, a lot of people do not value what is given for free. And being human is easy, but acting human is hard.
Thank you so much. We also agree that being human is easy, but acting human is hard.
And we also think that setting examples is very important and spreading education too. Now Christina may answer.
I agree with others that we should protect our human rights, but I also think that human rights are more than words written on a paper or more than a historical lesson. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, human rights began in a small places like your house, like your school, college, work, and all those places where we should respect each other. And yes, this is our responsibility as humans to respect others and to help them.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now Celine may answer.
All right. States have the legal obligation to protect and promote human rights, including the right to social security, and ensure that people can realize their rights without discrimination. But that does not mean we as individuals are free of responsibilities. While governments and the state reinforces the law and rules, we must set a standard for morality and speak out when others face injustice in their daily lives. We must support the rights of minorities, regardless of how we feel about them. That is one of our responsibilities as fellow human beings.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now Yana may continue.
So I believe that each and every one of us as individuals should start from taking small actions and improving ourselves. I think that we must learn to respect other people and mean no harm to those around us, regardless of their background and beliefs. By doing so, we will be able to influence our surroundings that includes friends, family, and even acquaintances. Which will then create a long chain of spreading awareness. So by making small changes, a greater one will follow.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer with us. Now Chernomorski may add something if they have.
Yeah, I want to add that as I am a Sikh, I have the full right to tie the turban in Ukraine and in school. And as Muslim women can wear the hijab, wear whenever and whatever and where they walk. And this is also a big example of human rights because this is my right and I'll do whatever I want and they'll do whatever they want. No one is going to no one have the right to tell us that you don't have to, because this is a very simple human right and we have to just protect this and defend this and nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We also agree that people should do whatever they want to, and no one should tell them otherwise.
Now, if no one else has anything to add, let's continue with the sixth question. So, the sixth question is, what do you think about the concept of free media? How can the young generation contribute to the protection of human rights in this age of technology and internet, where information exchange is reduced to seconds and individuals' media platforms are established? Celine, you may share your answer.
All right. Free media or freedom of the press is a fundamental right every person should have. By censoring news outlets and media, whether because of the agenda and propaganda they promote or the gruesome scenes it sometimes depicts, we risk embedding ignorance in our lives. While sensitive information is often disliked by the general audience, it is necessary to have the opportunity of knowledge about it. Many of the traditional means of delivering information are being slowly superseded by the increasing pace of modern technological advance. Almost every conventional mode of media and information dissemination has a modern counterpart that offers significant potential advantages to journalists seeking to maintain and enhance their freedom of speech. The standard by which the media is filtered is also very individual, and it's hard to set a clear number of rules that must be followed when sharing media. The young generation can contribute by spreading awareness and talking about movements that they support. Actively engaging in politics is a great way to understand the importance of protecting basic human rights. By making human rights a type of general knowledge, or maybe having information about it trending, the young generation will surely go down in history books. Regardless of the short attention span and the need for constant stimulation, if the young generation decide that it is time to change the world and make it a much safer and better place for everyone, we will be able to. By signing petitions, making hashtags about movements, including it in general social media, etc., we will make a difference.
Will thinks that making petitions is very important.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now, Francesca may continue.
Yeah, actually, I believe that social media actually has like good sides and bad sides when it comes to human rights. Because first of all, yeah, we can use it as the young generation to promote and bring awareness to acts of violence and discrimination towards certain people and try to protect them through our posts and through our own social media. But also there is like the problem of filtration of news because everybody's staying in their own bubble. Like if I'm supposedly a person that is very discriminatory towards, let's say, a group of people, and my feed is going to be full of people that agree with me. So for this, I believe actually we kind of need, as the young generation, to promote social medias that have certain rules and respect, let's say, the rules given by the United Council that stipulate that actually hate speech and other things need to be reported and need to be taken out. And so for this, I think we would be able to like diminish, let's say, the acts of violence, the acts of discrimination towards certain people, and bring in like their human rights. And also by promoting on our own feed that, as Celine said, flash mobs and different things that actually promote this. So yeah, that's it.
Yes, we also agree that social media has a good and a bad side. And thank you so much for explaining this to us. And now Toman may answer.
So nowadays, social media and internet are the places where we can express our opinion in front of a large audience. But also, in these places, human rights can be violated. So I think this have to be changed, and people have to, we have to change this thing because I have. I saw sometimes that somebody posts something and expressing his opinion or her opinion, and after, for example, 5 minutes, in Facebook, for example, or Instagram, don't agree with this, and they delete the post. And I think that's not fair because in this way we express ourselves and our minds.
Thank you so much for sharing this great example. It is really relevant today, and we agree with you totally. Now Mihai may continue.
All right, so I think that obviously free media does and will go a long way towards enforcing human rights. But yeah, as has been said, it's got bad sides too. And I think that at the same time, a lot of people these days try to sort of compensate. What I mean by that is that some use lobbying for human rights as a means to mainly gain fans, and in actuality, they might not even feel strongly towards the certain issue. That's not setting on a right example. And as to how the young generation could contribute to this protection of human rights, frankly, I'm not sure, other than spreading awareness, which has been mentioned before.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We also think that spreading awareness is really important. Now Oana may share her answer.
Thank you. Unfortunately, nowadays, not everyone has access to the best education. Not everyone has different subjects at school related to something more than just maths, physics, history, and English classes. So I feel like the internet is the best place, the free opportunity we get as teenagers to get informed and to get all the information we need, and to find information about stuff that actually matters in our everyday life in being part of the society. I feel like as teenagers, we can both educate ourselves, help others, but also maybe get involved, even though we don't have the right to vote yet. We can get involved even in politics through volunteering, spreading awareness on social media, or maybe, I don't know, getting informed. Also, the internet has very bad sides, such as cancel culture, which brings more damage than good, I'd say. But other than that, it's a great opportunity to share all the information and to spread awareness.
We also think that internet helps us get involved, especially as teenagers, and spread awareness. Now Ruki may continue with her answer.
Okay. Firstly, I want to apologize for my voice because I'm a bit sick today. Okay, let me give my answer to the question now. In my opinion, we should know our rights and search for them. Everyone deserves to be treated respectfully. I think that we can all agree that social media is useful if we use it in the right way, obviously. In my point of view, social media platforms should become a safer place of information, and securing human rights is absolutely important. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you for sharing your answer. We hope you get better
and have a fast recovery. Now Adelina may share her answer.
Free media actually comes down to freedom of expression, which is actually a basic human right. So no nation can hope to develop democratically without free expression, because democratic societies can only function when people are well informed, are able to access and share information freely, and can debate ideas. But for this, we need the pluralism of ideas, we need pluralism of media, and we can achieve it by reading different sources on internet, by following different people on Facebook, people with different opinions, so we can form a well-rounded view about the world. Now, as a young generation, as I said, we can follow different people with different opinions on social media. We can get involved and make posts about things that aren't normal, things we want to fight for in social media. And then we can also get involved ourselves. We can get involved by doing volunteering activities, by promoting feminism, by promoting equality between races, and speaking up, informing people about it on internet, informing people about it on real life, and helping others around us through different activities that we can organize in our schools, in our communities, activities like this.
Thank you so much for your answer. We also think that it is very important to be able to share information freely. Now, Chernomorski may share their opinion.
Thank you. So free media is the right of various forms of media, including press, TV, radio, and online media to operate freely in society without government control, restrictions, and censorship. So what can we do to protect our rights in the free media? We can investigate, inform, and empower, and also raise awareness among people. To promote and defend human rights, we can use satellite imagery, encrypted communication, and and data streams. Yeah,
that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now, Christina may continue.
I totally agree with Adelina that freedom of speech and social media are connected with each other, but I also think that social media is the fourth power of the world because in Bulgaria, especially, social media has a big impact on people's opinions. And I think that we're the one who is responsible for the impact on us, and we can't restrict what the social media will say because again, this is a freedom of speech and we are all free to express our opinions and our minds.
Thank you for sharing your answer. We also think that we are the ones responsible.
Now, let's move on to the seventh question. How are the terms as universal peace, fraternity, fellowship, or friendship related to human rights? Christina, you may start.
I think that they're really connected to each other. And again, here respect has a big impact on those two things because without respect, we're literally losing one of our characteristic as humans because humans are rational beings and respect is the key thing in being a rational being.
Thank you so much for sharing your opinion. Maybe someone else wants to say something regarding this question. If no, we may move on to the next and last question of today's conference. What do you understand by the saying of a great thinker? The flap of a butterfly's wings can cause storm beyond the ocean. Chernomorski may start.
Okay, so what I understand by the saying is that a flap of the butterfly's wing, it's like there can be a huge change just because of one flap. So I'll give an example of a thing that happened. So in 1960, a single lady who refused to give up her seat on the bus. So there used to be a law that stated Blacks could only sit at the backside and the white people, they could sit at the front side. So even if let's say the front side was filled up and so a Black person was sitting at the back, they would have to get up and leave the place for the white person if there was no other place left. So the single lady, what she did, she refused to get up. She said, no, I'm not going to get up. And of course, the bus driver, he called the cops. And well, yeah, but she started a democratic change, I'd say. And because of her, something started against race, racism. Yeah. Thank you.
That's it.
This is a great example which inspires a lot people to be like this woman.
Now, Adelina may answer.
So actually, I think this comes down to the scientific theorem that we know as a butterfly effect. This means a small change can impact and in time can have a huge impact on others. And as others have mentioned, another example can be even Greta Thunberg, even if it's not related to human rights. She came and protested every Friday until her movement caught and became a global movement. So her small daily actions in time made a huge impact on the whole world. Another example can be when someone says something outrageous and the whole class can stay silent, but then one person stands up to this and says something, and then another person stands up, and then another and another, until the whole class stood up and speaks up for another person. So sometimes you just need a little push to make a change. And if somebody stands up for human rights, others will too. We just have to make this one step, and then the whole road will be a lot more easier.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. We also think that it is really important to stand up for yourself and for others.
Now Dea may answer.
Hello. So we call this phenomenon in the saying the butterfly effect, as Adelina said. Its idea is attempting as small as the fluttering of a butterfly's wings can cause changes in the atmosphere and that will eventually create a tornado at the other end of the world. It gives a meaning that the thing may be so small, but it could have a very big effect on things. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now Telman may answer.
So I think we can understand these words in another way. For example, if we break one human right, we are also breaking many others, so we have to be careful.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Celine may continue.
All right. Of course, a single act like the butterfly flapping its wings cannot cause a typhoon. Small events can, however, serve as catalysts that act on starting conditions. This can be applied to our lives. A small act of kindness could change a person's life. And if others were to follow your example, you could change the world, as someone else said. There are many examples of the butterfly effect that have permanently changed the world. One of which is a stockbroker called Thomas Lawson wrote a book called Friday the 13th, which uses the superstition of this date to cause a panic between stockbrokers on Wall Street. The book has such an effect that now the US economy loses 900 million on this day because instead of going to work, holiday, out shopping, people stay at home instead.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Now Francesca may express her opinion.
So the thing is that sometimes we think our actions won't have any impact. And that our words will not reach a lot of people and they will have no effect. But that's actually very wrong. And we can see that in many people that are influenced the world nowadays. Like, for example, there is the example of Malala Yousafzai that fought for the right of education for girls in Pakistan, and even fought at first, like the Taliban's were enforcing this, depriving the girls from the right of education. She fought for it, and she even went and talked about it on TV, on British television, and brought awareness about this thing and fought for the right of education. And she got so big, but I don't think her or anybody that has ever fought for human rights thought that they would get this far. But she did it. And so it's an example of how a small butterfly, let's say, can actually change a whole world.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Hafsa may continue.
I would like to say that even something small can lead to something very big. Like, for example, I'll just give it a school example. You might not do your homework first day, then you will say, oh my God, never mind, I'll not do it tomorrow too. And then it will lead to not doing your homework. And at the end, when there's exams, you will be like, oh no, I did not study at all, which will be a big problem. So if you had started doing your homework from the beginning, like day by day, every day, then you could have like, passed your exams. So that's why like doing something small can actually lead to something very big. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Hafsa, for sharing your answer. We also agree that small changes can lead to something more big. Christina may continue.
I think that we should look on the effect of the butterfly from other perspective. What if we are the butterflies? Like we're the ones who make the difference and other people start following the same thing and that way the whole world changes. So we should be the butterflies in 21st century. We're the one which are going to change the future.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer. Rookie may continue.
Okay, from this sentence, I understand that a small change can make a big difference, as Adelina said, and I want to give an example for that. Most people think that nothing will happen if they themselves change and make a difference, but I think that it's not true, because that way somebody will be inspired by your behavior, and also people around you can also have an impact. And by this way, I think that we can reach universal peace.
Thank you so much for sharing your opinion. If someone has something to add, you may say. This was the concluding question of today's conference. Now, in order to conclude this discussion, I would like to say that each and every one of us should contribute to spreading awareness of the importance of human rights. We truly hope that this conference was a great experience for you, like it was for us. We would like to say a big thank you to everyone who participated in today's discussion, and to Meridian International School and all of the other school partners for making this experience possible. Take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank
you
for the
experience.
See you.
For the opportunity.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.